LAWsome by ConsultWebs. Breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm with your host, Tanner Jones.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another LAWsome episode. Today's focus, it's around advanced lead tracking and specifically conversion strategies around managing a law firm. Now, there are a lot of conversion elements to a successful law firm, and we're going to talk about that, but I'm excited to introduce our guest, Ted DeBettencourt. He's a co-founder of Juvo Leads, and he has a background in both marketing and product development. His focus really over the last several years has been in creating innovative strategies and solutions specifically geared around lead conversion within a law firm and tracking of those leads. So, Ted, thank you very much for joining the LAWsome podcast. Excited to finally have you on the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Tanner. Thanks for having me on.
So we're going to cover a few different concepts here. I mean, a few of the topics we'll cover will be around essential conversion elements for law firms, and then more around the tracking methodologies, but also want to get into what can be maybe a heated debate around the industry, and that's like how far do you lean into automation and AI, and how much do you lean on human interaction, especially when it comes to intake and converting leads. And then I also want to talk really around the conversion aspect of converting leads into signed retainers, which I know every law firm listening, that's what matters. That's what they're listening for. So Ted, let's start really by your background. Can you speak to like what have you seen? What have you been doing around the lead management concept?
Sure. Well, I guess how far back we want to go. But the map behind me, that's where I grew up on the little island of Martha's Vineyard off Massachusetts. I didn't stay there long, though. Went to Providence for college, then went to Case Western for law school. Midway through law school, realized, hey, I don't think this is for me. So I got my MBA as well, got out, started working at different marketing agencies around Boston. Quickly said, hey, everything they're doing, I can do for my own clients myself. So I started my own marketing agency, specializing in legal marketing. Did that for about 7-8 years, and then realized then when the chat companies came on the market, didn't really like what they were doing for my clients. So I was kind of the marketing manager for those. So I started saying, hey, make these changes. They'd say, yeah, we'll make them. They didn't make them. So I got frustrated, fired all my chat companies, and started answering chats myself. And what I quickly realized is that when I did it myself, I get my firms a lot more leads. So it started as me answering chats from my 5 to 10 clients, turned into us as a company answering chats for about 1,100 firms around the country.
Well, let's move in specifically around, like, clearly you've been in the game. You've seen a lot of leads come through law firms' intakes, and you've learned a lot. We all learn a lot, especially through mistakes or struggles.
Yeah.
What have you found are the key elements that ultimately influence a firm's ability to convert a lead through a website, right? And just to clarify for our listeners and you, I'm referring specifically before anybody's even had a conversation with the law firm. Maybe they're just on the website, perusing the site, or maybe they're on your social media channels. Yep. What are the key elements that are going to influence someone's willingness to engage in a conversation with a law firm?
Well, it depends on why they got there. So for them to, whether they pick up the phone, fill out a form, or start a chat, they have to have a problem that they think you have the ability to solve. So if they think you have the ability to solve, to show that that's true on your website is the first most important step. Well, second, followed by getting them to your website to begin with. Any chat system or conversion starts with traffic. If you're not driving traffic, it doesn't matter, how great your website is. You need people to go there. And just because you build a website doesn't mean we'll come. What's that baseball movie? If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
That's not true for SEO.
Field of dreams, right?
Yeah, field of dreams. So, you can build this greatest site in the world, but you got to get the people there. Once they're there, then it's all about figuring out how to optimize that conversion. But building up some trust with your visitors is always the first step. And helping them, showing them that you can solve their problems is the next thing.
Let me get into that point real quick, though, just as a practical example for the listeners. What does that even mean? So a problem, let's assume I have a personal injury law firm. Okay. Yep. So a problem for most personal injury law firm clients is that they've been in an auto accident. They're getting back and forth from the insurance company. They're not getting anywhere. They're out of options. So would you agree that's a problem? That's the pain point?
Absolutely. So if they get to the site and, you're a real estate attorney that happens to take the odd PI case that comes by, you're not really building a lot of trust there. So, if they land on a page that shows, I help victims of car accidents, here are some case results I've shown, the more you can show that, the easier it is for me to do my job, or for your phone to ring, or for that form to get submitted. You need to, at the very least, show them that you can help them with their problem.
Fair.
And then the next step is probably something that you preach to your clients, Tanner, speed to lead. So, if they pick up the phone and they call, wife and I were watching Better Call Saul last night. He comes home into the nail salon. And he checks his voicemails, hoping he gets a bunch of leads. The first thing I see that is it rubs me the wrong way. Like, hey, if they leave a voicemail, you're gonna call them back that night. You're giving them an opportunity for them to call somebody else. And I'm it's a funny show, and I know lawyers aren't like that. But he's waiting at the end of the day to return those calls. You got to get you can't let a phone call hit voicemail. You can't let a phone call go unanswered. You got to have somebody there to answer it right away. And it's the same for forms. If someone fills out a form, you get back to them the next day or a few days later, you probably already lost that lead. And the same is true, especially on the chat side as well. So when we first started, we weren't like timing everything. We didn't have the quality controls we do now. What we saw is that the biggest way we lose chats, this is early on back in 2017, is when it takes more than 30 seconds to respond. So we saw a high correlation between the time it takes to respond to a chat versus the chance of them turning into a lead and ultimately a case. The faster we can be on the chat side, so if we wait 30 seconds to respond to that first chat, we've lost 40% of the chatters. In the chat world, we're talking in tens of seconds. So every 10 seconds it takes us to delay a chat response is time for them to leave. Mm-hmm. So the number one factor in chat, just like answering phones, just like following up with form submissions, is time to response. So we spend a lot of time optimizing that for our clients.
I think that's important for anyone currently who has in-house intake professionals who are managing chats as well, because that is, if you're not measuring how quickly they're responding to that, clearly, based on Ted's data, that is a likely area that you could quickly, almost overnight, begin to impact your ability to convert more leads. That's
Peter Drucker, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Yeah, so clearly, not responding quickly is a pitfall in that. Any other elements that you've learned?
Not asking for too much ask information. So we have on the, are we talking about chat specifically, or are we talking about all lead intake?
Let's start with chat, but if there are any other insights, I'd love to hear them.
On the chat side, you don't want to ask too many questions of the chatter. You always want to, we have give questions and get questions. A give question is, give me your phone number, give me your name. If you ask too many get questions up front, you're going to lose a person. So you want a little bit of give questions up front too. You get a name and phone up front, but then you want to tell me about what happened. I'm very sorry to hear that. Show empathy, show relatability, and it can't just all be give me the personal information. So you want it to not feel like they're filling out a form on the chat side. You want it to feel like a real conversation with the person.
That's good. And what are the end goals? Like, what do you start as an intake operator? What are they starting that engagement with a focus around?
Sure. Well, it depends on the practice area and what the chatter's question is. But the goal should be the same for every firm, regardless of the practice area, and that's to sign a retainer. So on the chat side, you want to get the minimal information to become a lead for the firm. And then the next piece of the information you want to get is, if it's a lead, well, how far down the pipeline do you want to take it? Do you want to pass it to the firm right away? Or do you want to go so far as to actually sign that retainer for a firm? For about 30% of our PI firms, we're literally signing retainers and giving them signed cases right then and there through chat. You don't have to do that, but it's just, if the goal is a firm to get a retainer, you want to get as many of those as possible.
That's fascinating to me, and I'm sure to many listeners, they're shocked by that stat if they've never tried that, because it just seems like you always want to talk with someone, get someone on the phone or meet someone in person. At least that's what I've heard. So but that's clearly not what the market is doing. Are you finding there's a certain demographic? Is it a younger age group that's more inclined to only chat and sign a retainer before going into the firm or talking with the firm?
We are noticing trends to the people who are a little bit younger, and we also do it through text. So we didn't think that people would be up to signing into retainers through text, but we're having a higher percentage of our retainers getting signed are actually people communicating with us via SMS. So a lead comes in via text, which is happening on more and more every month. The number goes up, not every month, but pretty much there's a trend of it going up every month. The percent of leads we're answering are from SMS. So we're just seeing more of those are signing up via retainer, via text than we thought. So we're just seeing trends that people are a lot more comfortable texting and not talking to anybody. The funniest thing, we talk to law firms and we'll say, when we do the 30-day trial review to see how the free trial went, we have more leads that we're sending them that they're saying, when we try to call these leads, they won't pick up, but they'll text back and forth with us. So we're just seeing a higher trend of, I'm not going to say they're all millennials, but more and more people only communicating via SMS and not even being comfortable picking up the phone.
It's so interesting to me, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, one, we have a younger generation that has grown up literally texting. That's what they've done. That is their primary form of communication. And but even still, we always say you need to have all three forms of conversions on your website. That's your phone, and usually the phone is going to eat up at least 50% or more of your conversions from our experience. Then you have your contact form. That's usually a very simplified form asking for name, contact information like phone number and or email, and then comments, whatever is related to their case. The other form, obviously, what we're talking about here with Ted is around live chat. And that is something that, it's been around. How long has live chat been around, Ted, in the industry?
I'm going to say
years?
Engage started the industry for law firms probably 10, 11 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago now.
Yep. So we're approaching over a decade now. It's been around, and it has not gone down in terms of people engaging in these conversations through chat. From my experience, it has only increased and started to, most certainly it's overtaken the contact form in terms of usage, which shows that people want to engage. I think that's a good element. I want to come back to metrics, some of the metrics that you found are important, but I think this is a good segue to move into the concept of engagement and what people are looking for. The conversation that I'm hearing in the industry a lot is just around the whole concept of automation, leveraging AI and being process driven, being efficient with that versus the other side, which is, really building up the human side of your law firm, the empathetic, the personable, right? And really, I think there are a lot of arguments out here for both sides of the camp here, but specifically around chat. What are you seeing with this overall debate? What are you convinced on, Ted?
Chat's going to take, AI is going to take over the world. It's a question of not if, but when. So then it comes down to, right now in the market, there's basically three types of chats. There's the human-powered chat, which we do. There's the self-answering chat, which the firm has to answer. And then there are kind of the chats that's the quasi-AI, more like an if-then statement, like fill out your name. Next, tell me what type of case you have. You clicking buttons and stuff.
These are like chat bots. Is that right?
I'm not going to call it when it's more like a choose your own adventure. It's not really a bot so much. The next one that will come out will be fully AI. So it's as if it were a person, but it's just really a robot on the other end. So my industry, which is the human powered part, we're going to be the ones that probably evolve into that sooner. So we're already experimenting with that. We run all our chats through, and we're on experiments with it now. Where all our chats come in, it shows what ChatGPT would say based on the rules that we give it, and then we see what our agents say. So what we're seeing is ChatGPT gets it right about 65-70% of the time. It makes our agents a lot faster, but we can't rely on it. So we call it our co-pilot. So we lean on it pretty heavily because it can be really fast, which is nice. Instead of an 8-second response, we can get them down to 2 seconds. The problem is you can't rely on it 100%. They give phantom answers. So meaning, someone says, hey, it was a car. A lot of times people ask legal questions. Hey, I was hit from behind in a car. Do you think I have a case? And ChatGPT will say, yes, you definitely do. Call us. Like, ooh, you don't want to give legal advice there. You don't want to be careful how you say it. So we can't rely on it currently in its current form yet. Someday we're going to be able to. That number is going to go from 65 to 70 to 75 to 80 to 85 and on upwards. But it's not quite near that. But as soon as it does, then it's going to change the industry pretty drastically.
So have you went toe to toe with comparing the human interactive chat versus a chat bot or an automation and compared the actual sign-up rate or the conversion rate? Do you have any data?
We're doing A/B test studies all the time. So there's not right now a pure Chat GPT option on the market. There are a few of the I'm not going to say competitors' names, but there's a few different options where it's kind of a choose your own adventure solution. There's two main ones on the market. And it really depends on how you qualify leads. So Juvo, my company, Juvo is Latin, and everyone thinks it's huevo, and like we're eggs. We're not eggs. So Juvo means qualified. So our big thing is we only want to send qualified leads. So when we do an A/B test, you say, how many qualified leads did you get with this? How many qualified leads did you get with like a non-AI robot? And what you'll see is that the human-powered chat gets more qualified leads, but the other chat gets similar numbers but non-qualified. So a lot of people put their number in and they won't go all the way through, whereas we only send qualified leads. The next thing that a lot of the other companies do is they try to get phone calls on the website. We do that, but we use the call tracking data that the company provides us, whereas they use their own call tracking. So they try to kind of take calls from a firm and then say, look at the calls we generated. Like, you didn't generate a call. They just filled out a button on your website. So when you look at the numbers and you look at the qualified leads, we usually win by about 40%. On the flip side of that, we're more expensive because we got to pay real people to answer those chats. So when the AI bots or the generative AI or the form that looks like chat, that can be cheaper for sure.
Well, as you suggested, the hybrid gives the opportunity for the quickness in the response. It also gives much more controllability to the responses, but still having the human on the other side seems to make a lot of sense to me. I'm curious to hear your take on what is, like, do you believe there's such a thing as over-reliance on let's say an AI chatbot? If you could get it to 99.9%, to me, that would be the most logical things for a logical thing for a law firm to pursue from a chat standpoint. But what's your take on this as you're starting to explore this type of technology and what you're anticipating down the road?
I don't think we're going to get it quite to 99.9%. I think we'll get, in the next, I can predict 2 to 3 years out, and who knows if I'm right. In the next 2 to 3 years, I think we'll get closer to 90%. Okay. And then at that point, it comes to like the market saturation. If everyone's using it, like, I'm in trouble. I got to figure out new ways to add value. But as of right now, you really need people checking it because it's not quite there yet. With the phantom answers, the wrong answers, the kind of sometimes wacky answers that ChatGPT is giving. When it gets to 99, if it gets to 99.9%, all firms should be using it, and it's going to radically change the internet more than me. Half the businesses will be
no doubt
drastically affected.
No doubt. But the reason I want to state that is that I believe that there are a lot of law firms pushing the envelope with technology, and I applaud a lot of that effort, at least the mindset behind it, embracing technology. But as a lawyer, you have a duty to your clientele, to the marketplace, to be able to control the communication coming out of your firm. And so that's just something I want to stress, that we have to embrace this technology, no doubt, if we want to continue to serve our clients and be good stewards of the technology, but remain competitive. But we also have to respect that right now it's not fully accurate. And so an overdependence on it can mean much more than just a botched lead.
You get in trouble.
Mm-hmm,
yeah, you
absolutely.
Give a robot giving legal advice on your website, like that's legal trouble. That's
no doubt.
Getting the bar sanctioned.
That's it. So that's just a quick reminder there for listeners. But let me come back to the metrics piece, because I think it's always helpful to get practical and give law firm owners some advice on what they should be tracking. It feels like there are a million different metrics that you can monitor each and every month. But what do you see as the key metrics law firms should be looking at when it comes to conversion success specifically?
Conversion success. Well, that's something we talk about a lot. So when we first started, we weren't just a chat company. We also do call and form tracking. We don't really offer that to a lot anymore, but we probably have about 500-600 firms that use this for call and form tracking as well. So we see all the data. The first step is you need to track everything. If you can't track it, you can't measure it. Can't measure it, you can't manage it. The firms that we see using conversion data to its full extent are always experimenting with new things. They're rolling out A/B tests. They're rolling out different ways to optimize things. So if you're not every little often running an A/B test to try something new, it's kind of hard to grow that way. So, we always recommend, and it's part of our onboarding process, anytime a client's using either a different chat company or a different something, roll us out as an A/B test. Like, we're happy to give that. We give everyone a free 30-day trial so they can try their old chat company versus us and see the results of what 30-day split test does. Because if you can't know with the data that something's better than something else, then you're not really making an improvement. You're just kind of saying like, oh, we tried something new and it worked this month, but it didn't work last month. And, it's hard to kind of rely on month-to-month comparisons versus a true A/B split test.
Sure. Okay. Well, let's move into what I would argue is the much more important concept, which is once you get the lead, how do you convert the lead into a signed client?
Sure.
Securing retainers today online for law firms, it starts with the first impression with that law firm, all the way from the beginning of that engagement. So I think we all recognize that. But what have you learned in the last several years around this area of conversion? What strategies can law firms start to implement if they haven't already to begin improving retainer signups?
Talking to the people in the way that they contacted your firm. So if they fill out a form, like, you still want to pick up the phone. But if they call, don't send them an email a day later. If they text, don't email them. Text them back. Talking to them in the channel they want to talk to. And the same that's true in my business, speed to response, is even more true for law firms. When that form submit comes in, don't wait 48 hours. If it comes in Friday night, you're going to call that day. The call comes in, don't say, oh, we can't talk to you now. You got to get them on the phone, talking to them, or texting back and forth with them as soon as humanly possible. And the firms that do that well, we notice there's a large discrepancy. There's the firms that say they do that well and the firms that actually do that well. Right. All firms say they do. 95% of firms say they do that well. It's, the humble 5% that don't. No, they don't. Very few of those that say they do actually do. And the ones that do have tracking in place to track their existing team to make sure when a lead comes in, they see the time response to that lead that came in and when they got them on the phone. So if you're not tracking that metric internally as a firm, there's a high likelihood you're in the category of firms that think they do it well, but they really don't.
What are some of the, we talked about some of the reasons why a lead through a chat wouldn't engage or wouldn't go all the way through to retaining a law firm, and that was primarily around response time and the responses and the questions being asked, not overwhelming them with questions. But when it comes to actually signing business, what are you seeing as the deeper underlying issue or issues that may be impacting conversion rates?
Deeper issues with conversions, or are they talking to other firms? So if they're with chat, it's a low barrier to entry. So we have a lot of chats of people, they have no intention of signing right there on the spot. We try to create qualifying rules to kick out the people that are just fishing for information. So hopefully us or anybody other chat company can create qualifying rules to kick the junk out. But it is a fairly lower barrier to entry than picking up the phone or even filling out a form, depending on the details of the form. What we're noticing on why firms aren't signing leads is really comes down to speed. So either not having the qualifying rules on place via chat, via the phone. So, is your intake team asking the right questions to qualify that lead and not just figure out if they're trying to get free information. And then next, how long it takes for them to follow up. So, if someone calls or fills out a form, they're then going to then fill out that same form on a few other websites and see who they get the best response from. And speaking of that in particular, Google's been leaning into that pretty heavily lately. So I'm sure, Tanner, all about LSA, but local service ads. So they have a feature in the local service ads where you can call or you can submit a message. And Google recently got rid of Google My Business Messages. And a lot of our clients were like, oh, they're getting rid of LSA messages. We just said no time soon. And here's why. After you submit a Google LSA message, Google prompts that visitor to send that same message to 3 other firms. Here's why Google likes it. They took one lead and they sold it to 4 firms. So now it's a race to who responds to that lead the fastest. Whatever firm responds to that lead the fastest is going to win the lead while all the other firms pay for it. So it's not the greatest policy on Google's end, but it's just reinforcing the fact that speed to follow up to these leads is what really makes a difference for them.
I've seen it, time and time again. I think no doubt speed is important as long as it's matched with quality. A quality impression, quality experience.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. I'd like to land the plane specifically around the future. I mean, you and I have talked or at least alluded to the power of technology and where that's going. None of us are truly sure, but what future trends are you anticipating in the world of intakes or converting leads? What you have any thoughts for our listeners on that?
Yeah, well, I two in particular as it pertains to AI. Chat's going to get more and more AI. Everyone knows that. It's literally called ChatGPT is the biggest one, so that's going to get better and better. But as it gets better, then it's going to get into better phone answering. So right now, there's a few plays on the market. They're not that great yet because there's awkward pauses. Those awkward pauses are going to go away. Phone answering is going to move over to AI versions. At first, it won't be as good as people. We're experimenting just like everybody, half the companies in the world right now. It's not good yet. It will get better sooner. So as the delays go from 1 second to delay as it goes to 0.1, it's going to get better. So eventually it will move to phone answering will be ChatGPT or AI powered as well.
I can certainly see that. So I guess the follow-up question there would be, what can a law firm start to do today to prepare for that type of lead?
Document, track, measure, manage. So if all AI is as good as you program it, if you have real people and they're saying the exact same thing every time, you can program that into an AI. So if you can't document what you're doing internally, eventually it's going to be the firms that document that the best, that can feed the AI models the best, that can have the best answering services, that can have the best chat. So eventually it's going to be decentralized, so all the firms will be doing it internally. You won't be relying on a company like me. But the better you're able to document that so you can feed AI models that, the better you'll be able to do. So document, measure, manage.
Ted, I appreciate you joining the show. Was there anything that you would have wished I asked that I didn't?
Aside from the obvious plug about who's the best chat provider on the planet, no, I think all the questions are great, Tanner.
That's good. Well, what's the best way for listeners to reach out if they have questions or would like to talk to you further?
Go to Juvo, Juvo leads.com and start a chat on our website and let us know how many more leads you'd like to get you.
Wonderful. Ted, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Tanner. It's been a pleasure as always.
LAWsome by ConsultWebs with Tanner Jones. For show notes, links, and info, go to consultwebs.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Watch for the next LAWsome episode to discover more breakthrough insights to build a thriving law firm.